Hello everyone. Currently, the DbD community, DbD as a game, and behavior is not in the best spot it has ever been. We obviously have the IP breaches and the DDoS attacks happening currently. We also have a bunch of people who are unhappy with the two last chapters that got released, with the Knight and the Skull Merchant being killers who promote heavy gen control, dragging out games, and just an unpleasant time for the players, and even playing the killer doesn't feel very great for a lot of players. I know that behavior is working really hard right now, and I know that there's a lot of content creators who are actively trying to keep the player base in Dead by Daylight, because currently it is looking like a lot of players will stop playing the game completely. And to try to help out a little bit myself, I want to encourage killers to try to play the game with a different mindset and especially with different builds than what is currently popular. I do not know my time spent on Dead by Daylight in a killer to survivor ratio. I am pretty sure that I am about 50-50. I do usually enjoy playing killer a little bit more. I feel like that is the most interactive gameplay, because when I play Survivor, there is a high chance that not much will be happening during the game and I will just be sitting on a generator for 5 minutes. Something that has happened to me recently though is that I have gotten steadily better at the game and I have been getting faced with better and better players. I am struggling to keep up with them, and a lot of the time I feel like I have no control over the game and that I am just frustrated, I'm struggling, and I can't get anywhere throughout the game. I raised my struggles to another content creator by the name of Kaiser the Bard. I have been watching their stream for quite some time, a couple of months, and I told them that I feel like I have to go super hard slow down builds every game so I have a chance at winning. And this included going Call of Brine, it included going Corrupt Intervention and Deadlock and stuff like that, but I was still struggling a lot. Kaiser then told me that I might be experiencing this problem because I am focusing too much on gen control, and that I should try out playing with builds that are more centered around chase. This didn't make too much sense to me in the start, because as a killer it is very common to have to slow the game down, because the biggest downside to playing killer is that sometimes the games are just too quick, and slowing down the game with some gen control will help with the survivors not getting every single gen done super quickly. After continuing to struggle for a few days with playing killer, I decided that it was time to change my build. I was simply not enjoying the game anymore, and I didn't really know what to do. I felt like no matter what I did, no matter how well I played, I just lost every single game. That is when I realized that there actually is a pretty decent build that is accessible to most people depending on how much progress you have in the game and how much you actually play it. The build is something that works on every single killer and will most often require you to only use 3 perks. If you were confused with the thumbnails why I only showed 3 perks, it was because there is only 3 perks to this build. The 4th one is completely up to you and the killer you're playing and what you might need help with. It is not a build that is super good for beginners because it requires 3 teachable perks, which means that you have to prestige 3 killers to be able to use these perks. But luckily, none of the perks are actually from a licensed chapter, so you will not have to spend any real money on getting them. The first perk that I use is Corrupt Intervention. This is a very popular perk, and it is most likely the best slowdown perk in the game. It simply blocks the 3 generators that is the furthest from your spawn points in the beginning of the game, and it blocks them for 3 minutes, and they will get unblocked after those 3 minutes and after you have successfully downed a survivor. This is a teachable perk from Plague, which is a pretty popular killer, but also a pretty strong one and a killer I recommend that everyone tries out, which might encourage more people to actually get her, because you both get one of the strongest perks in the game, but you also get to play an insanely fun killer. The next perk we have is from a free killer, which is the Hillbilly, and the perk is Enduring. This perk on its own isn't the greatest. It is pretty useful, especially in chase, and it gets even stronger when we combine it with our third perk. What it does is that it shortens how long you get stunned from a pallet. This is the only perk out of the three where I would recommend not to play this every single game, because you will actually get a little bit dependent on it. Because when you take it off, you will be surprised by how long you get stunned by pallets. This, however, isn't too big of a problem, because it doesn't take a long time before you get used to not having the perk. But just beware that that might be a problem, and you might be too dependent on the perk in the future. The third perk we're going to use is Spirit Fury. This is a pretty simple perk, but it enhances Enduring a lot. How the perk works is that every time you break 2 pallets, the perk activates. When you have broken 2 pallets with it, the next time you get stunned by a pallet, the pallet will instantly break. You will still get stunned by the pallet that breaks, but with Enduring, the stun is a lot shorter, which helps you a lot. This is the core build. We have some good slowdown that you're not too dependent on. It doesn't require you to kick gens, and it's really solid, and it can also help you track survivors. Because every single game, you will find that survivors are going to spawn next to these corrupted generators, which can help you track them, and you won't have to run around for 2 minutes looking for a survivor, because you will pretty easily find them. This isn't a build that is suitable for every single killer. I wouldn't recommend you playing it with Blight, I wouldn't recommend you playing it with Nurse, or perhaps Artist, maybe Spirit. Even though I use the build on Spirit, I wouldn't recommend it. There is stronger builds. And then you have characters like Hillbilly, maybe Twins. There is just some killers who won't benefit from Spirit Fury as much as others, but for the majority of the killers it is actually a very solid build. The last perk is totally up to you, and it depends again on what killer you are playing. I was using Sloppy Butcher with Spirit just because it's a pretty solid build on Spirit, but it's also all around a pretty solid build for most killers, especially those who do not have an M2 or a special ability. I would recommend Bamboozle, which is a teachable perk from the Clown. This is another perk that will benefit you heavily in chase, and especially with Wesker, who I was playing. The build I made originally for Wesker, but I've noticed that it is really strong, no matter what killer you actually play, except for those that I mentioned, and possibly other killers that I may have forgotten. It is totally up to you, however, what you want to do, what perks you want to use. You don't have to use this build, you can use it as an inspiration, maybe try it out, test how it works for you, and there is a ton of perks you can use as your 4th perk. As I said, I would recommend Bamboozle or Sloppy Butcher, but there is definitely a ton of perks you can use instead. It is up to you and your taste and what you want to use on your specific killer. Anyways, I hope that this build might help you and your future games. I suggest you try it out to see how it works for you. I'll be showing you 2 games where I used this build. Both of them went pretty well, but the biggest benefit I can see with this build is that you never really stress out. You feel like you're constantly in control of the game because you are not going around looking for generators, looking on survivors on generators, and instead you spend your entire game chasing survivors and actually being able to down them in chases, putting a lot more pressure than you would going back and forth on a generator and kicking it. My enjoyment as a killer has definitely gone up since I started using the build. It is obviously countered by a few things, especially Swifts, because Swifts can call out the Spirit Fury effectively. But other than that, I hope you enjoyed the games, and I hope that you find the same luck that I have found with this build. Okay, my internet disconnected. Perfect. Okay, so I'm going to be showing a pretty simple build for people like, for example, myself, who is sometimes struggling with playing killer. Recently, I played a lot of Wesker, and I started noticing that my games were not getting better. I was constantly playing against people who were really good, I couldn't kill them. And I always got games where I couldn't sacrifice more than one survivor. There are some killers that will need it, like for example maybe Blight and Nurse and stuff like that. And Huntress maybe, there's better builds. But generally it works pretty well for most killers. And then we're going to have Corrupt Intervention. This is generally one of the best slowdown perks. And it's a great substitute for Lethal Pursuer. If you're struggling, sometimes, like me, to actually find survivors in the beginning of the game, Lethal Pursuer is a good choice, so you can kind of learn and start understanding where survivors usually spawn. But Corrupt Intervention kind of does the same thing, because survivors will almost always spawn by these Corrupt Intervention generators that get blocked with this perk, and later they will then start looking for another generator to work on, because they can't work on the blocked ones. And what you have to do is just patrol the 4 gens that aren't blocked by the perk. The only part of this specific build is the Bamboozle isn't going to be useful on, you know, every single killer. You know, like I said, Wesker, he interacts with vaults in his power, which is really good combined with Bamboozle. But other killers can also find value with it, especially M1 killers who need to shut down loops better. That didn't hit. What is she doing? Okay, let's see if we can get her. That was a pretty quick down. So in games like this, Corrupt Intervention doesn't have much value, because the generators aren't blocked quickly. But it doesn't have to have... It doesn't really matter if the generators get unblocked quickly, because the survivors will have moved out of the area by the time that you've gotten downed or someone downed or whatever. ZZ. Oh, that was a bit too early by me. So we're going to break almost every pallet we see when we don't have Spirit Fury up. I will warn you though, if you play with this build too much, you will get really unused to how long the stuns actually are, and how long the survivors stun you with pallets. But other than that, it's pretty solid. It doesn't make you rely on certain perks and stuff too much. He gets this here. So now we can use Bamboozle, and he won't be able to vault it. He doesn't have any safety here. This chase is going on for a little bit too long. Longer than I would like to. He's gonna keep running around. Oh, I didn't hit that actually. That surprised me. We see someone over there. I don't know who that is. Other good options with the build would be Brutal Strength. It combines, you know, good with the Enduring and the Spirit Fury. But something I don't like doing in my builds is having, you know, 3 perks. That's basically 1 perk in a way, because we only have Enduring because we have Spirit Fury, and then we will have Brutal Strength only because we have Enduring and Spirit Fury. So I would go on a perk that isn't dependent on other perks. Now we will get Spirit value, because she will most likely not know about it. And this window is blocked. She can hear that it might be blocked, and she did. She did not drop that pallet. And the thing I like about this build as well is that it's not centered around gen defense and controlling and patrolling generators, because that's a pretty boring aspect of this game for me personally. So I'm enjoying playing a build that doesn't require you to do those things, you know, like a heavy gen kick build. I prefer doing something like this. We get her here. Unless she does that. Bro, this crowd is insane. I did not see her. I want to try to power her to get her infected, but I'm not going to. Look at Spirit Fury value there. Bro, I'm missing every single power. Holy guacamole. I'm terrible. So she now knows about the Spirit Fury? Possibly the Enduring. I don't know what that was. Now we have to watch out for Dead Hard. Let's see if we can get her. We might have an E play coming toward us though.
Too bad you won't make it much further.
Don't know if she... Yeah, she's not gonna do Shadow. Ooh, that was close actually. As for my add-ons, obviously that depends on what killer you're playing. It's with Wesker, I'm playing his generally best add-ons. The gloves and the crank. Who give him a shorter cooldown on his power. And also the speed between his bounds are shorter, or you're faster when using your bound. So here, I'm much faster than I would be without the add-on. So they won't be able to finish it. Oh, I almost got the value there. So what I could have done there, if she decided to vault that pallet after stunning me with it, I could quickly turn around and grab her. Let's go for the Claudette. She doesn't know about the bamboozle. Shit. I could have gotten her there. Now she has to drop this. Yeah. She has Dead Hard, we have to remember that. So we're just gonna wait it out as long as we can. Something we can do is just hold our power. We do like this. And then we hold it and use Dead Hard. Because usually, with Wesker, people will instantly do the other bounds. But since she has Dead Hard, that's not a good idea. Okay, that was nice. Where'd she go? What? I can't hear her. Does she have off the record? No. I started using my power a bit early there. So even though this game is not going super well currently, if I'm able to get this kill, it will be a bit better for me. We'll see how she plays this. She has another pallet here. Block the window. She might vault this now. Okay. She can't go for window now. Okay, let's break this to get victory. And she is stuck. Yeah. Just block this. She did not catch up on what was happening. So again, we know she has Dead Hard. I don't really need to wait it out too much right now. I have Spirit Fury up. Should be aware of my Spirit Fury. Thought she would pre-drop it. So we can fake an M1 with my power. She tried. Shit! I thought I'd get him. Okay. Dead Hard value. Let's take her out quickly. Whoa, that flick was nice. People don't usually expect you to be doing stuff like that. With Wesker, I don't know why people haven't gotten used to the fact that as Wesker, it's pretty easy to not look in the direction you're going to dash. So I'm going to try it, the build on a little stronger killer, and I will be using these add-ons. I'm going to use Sloppy as my fourth perk. I don't know, it was kind of difficult to decide what I wanted to use as the last perk. But Sloppy Butcher is a good choice if you don't have anything else. on this map, we kind of have to walk toward the generators that are corrupted. So I could see no grass was moving, so I have to break these. I saw that the grass was moving, so it was pretty obvious she was just standing there. They don't have the best window. Yeah, she was not ready for me to come that way. Okay, we have balanced on her. If she didn't have balance, we would be able to get her down without her being able to use that hard. Let's apply the sloppy here, and let's see if we can get her. It's gonna be easy to track her, really. I have these doors broken now. Bro, I'm getting blocked. No.